There's movement at the top. Welcome to ACC Power Rankings right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by as we outline the conference going into Week 12, and we'll be coming back with a future video in the next couple days outlining championship scenarios in the ACC and college football playoff opportunities. All right, let's get right to it with the worst, the bottom of the ACC, the team that was ranked the highest in the national polls to start the season at number 10 in the nation, the biggest free fall in the history of college football, at least in modern college football history. Of course, not a good sign when you have fired your offensive and defensive coordinators and wide receiver coach in early November. That would, of course, be Florida State with the dubious distinction of number 17, bottom of the nation when it comes to the most disappointing, the most embarrassing. 1-9, dead last in total offense yards per play, rushing, passing, bottom 3 in all those categories. They might as well be last. And the most important offensive statistic, scoring offense, 13.3 points per game. That is last. Dead last at everything except for major disappointment. They would be the number one nationally, Florida State. Stanford concluded its history in the Pac-12 by going 3-9, 3-9, 3-9. They are 2-7 right now, so their transition to the ACC is pretty much gone as planned. 6 consecutive losses since winning their ACC debut, which was pretty remarkable at the time, going cross-country in the opener to defeat Syracuse, although Fran Brown, head coach of Syracuse, pretty much handed them the win with horrible, the worst I've seen this season, game management. As of a couple weeks ago, head coach Troy Taylor of Stanford made these comments about his defense. We don't do anything right. We can't do anything. Everything we're doing is wrong. Basically, he said, we can't tackle. We've got no pass rush. We can't cover. Sounds pretty dismal. At number 16, the tree. We could take the next 8 teams in our ACC power rankings, mix them all up, and defend that order. They pretty much all can beat one another on any given Saturday, and they pretty much have spent the entire 2024 season doing just that. At number 15, we're going with NC State, coming off a dismal effort against Duke, losing by 10. They beat Stanford the week before by 31. This is nowhere close to the Dave Doran teams of the last 5 years. The last one, which finished, of course, 9-4 in 2023. CJ Bailey coming off a 16 of 39 game. They averaged less than 3 yards per carry against Duke and losing that game once again, 29-19. At number 15 in the ACC, decent out-of-conference record at 3-0, but only 2-4 in the conference, the Wolfpack. We give the one-rung nod to number 14 in the ACC, that's Wake Forest, because they beat NC State 31-30. They've got a better conference record at 2-3 despite a 4-5 record. They lost their 5th game to Cal 46-36 last Friday night. Hank Bachmeier threw 3 interceptions. They gave up over 500 yards of total offense. Their other win in the conference against lowly Stanford at number 14 in the ACC, Dave Clawson's Demon Deacons. Call them the unluckiest team in college football, or call them the worst closers in college football. We will call them the Cal Golden Bears, 5-4 overall, but they picked up their first ACC win in history, traveling cross-country last Friday night to defeat Wake Forest. We just mentioned that game. Fernando Mendoza passed for 385 yards on a 40-for-56 night. The Cal Golden Bears have lost 4 games by a total of 9 points. Check out the Miami collapse. They were up 35-10. Check out the Florida State loss on the road. Florida State's only win of the season, in which Cal missed 3 field goals, and if they would have made just one of those field goals, they would not have had to go for it in the red zone on their final drive for a touchdown, because they could have kicked a game-winning field goal. They also lost to Pitt 17-15, a game in which they missed a field goal. Everybody together missed a field goal in the final 90 seconds of the game. Yes, Cal has lost in excruciating fashion. However, the last 2 games, the Wake win, and then go back 1 game before that, they demolished Oregon State 44-7. They are not the worst team in the ACC, even when they had 0 wins in the conference. At number 13, Cal. Next up in our power rankings, right here at the Voice of College Football, Bill O'Brien's BC Eagles coming off an impressive showing against Syracuse, winning that one late on a backup quarterback touchdown pass. Grayson James did the honors. Also 313 rushing yards. At number 12 in the ACC, BC. We don't expect it to become quite as infamous as Colorado's fifth down win against Missouri in 1990. But this past weekend in Pittsburgh, Virginia, coming off 3 consecutive losses, was awarded a fifth down. So they ran the fourth down play, leading by 1 point in the fourth quarter late. They ran a fourth down play. They were stopped. Everybody was going full go, but the officials, I've never heard this one before, claimed that they were not in position to call the play. Virginia got another shot. They converted the fourth down. They went on to extend the drive and kick a field goal that forced Pitt to have to score a touchdown to win the game. 24-19 Virginia to again get them to 5-4 after 3 consecutive losses. At number 11 in the ACC, they've got a win against Boston College. They lost late to Louisville in one of their more impressive showings of the year, the Wahoos. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football for our ACC Power Rankings. And our number 10 team wears Carolina blue, and they've got the number 1 running back in the conference, maybe in the nation, Omarion Hampton. Almost 1,200 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns, trying to send off Mac Brown as a winner. 5-4 after 2 consecutive wins over Virginia, and of course the gimme against Florida State, 35-11. The first time Mac Brown has ever defeated the Seminoles. He's now 1-12 against FSU. At number 10 in the ACC, Carolina Blue. With 19 starters back, they were the chic pick in the ACC and to possibly get to a college football playoff berth, but it's not going to happen this season for Virginia Tech. A marginal 5-5 overall record. We should have seen the signs coming, of course, when they stepped out on opening weekend and lost as a 2-touchdown favorite at Vanderbilt. 19 starters back, including quarterback Kyron Drones, but he was benched in the third quarter of this loss against Clemson, a game in which they were up 7-0 at halftime on a blocked field goal, another one for Clemson, that they returned for a touchdown. But Clemson came roaring back in the second half. Drones, 9 of 20, benched. Colin Schlee came in, and he wasn't much better, if he was at all, at 7 of 17. Virginia Tech now marches on, trying to get to a bowl game at this point with 2 games left. At number 9 in the ACC, the Hokies. If nothing else, Syracuse football this year is entertaining. Playing games, high scoring down to the wire. Blew a lead against Boston College, lost that game, and giving up 300-plus yards rushing. And then the weekend before, they were down by 18 at home against Virginia Tech, came roaring back to steal a win. Kyle McCord is 4th in the nation in passing. And again, Syracuse football is fun to watch. I kind of like in McCord's situation at Syracuse where they ride his right arm to either a great win, exciting play, 392 yards against BC, or a disaster like he had against Pitt with 5 picks and 3 pick sixes in the first half. It's much like Sam Hartman was to Wake Forest, Kyle McCord to Syracuse. At number 8 in the ACC, the Cuse. Let's just say it flat out. Duke's a good football team. They're 7-3 now, coming off that 29-19 win against NC State. Malik Murphy fired 3 touchdown passes. But if you're not careful, he's going to throw a few to the other team as well, as he did the weekend before when they had an 11-point third quarter lead against Miami and got steamrolled 36-3 on the scoreboard to finish out the game as a 22-point loser. The weekend before, of course, they had a 6-0 turnover victory over SMU, but blew it, missing a field goal at the gun. And Duke football, this is where we stand in 2024. They lack some talent. They lack a name brand. They're not given much credit, but again, they gave real tests to the 2 top teams in the conference. They've got 7 wins in their win column. They are Duke. Give them credit for 7 wins, but on the other hand, name me a worse 7-2 football team. Not just in 2024, just name me a worse 7-2 football team. We're talking Pitt, and we're talking about blowing a game against Virginia, in which earlier in the day, Miami was upset by Georgia Tech. What happened there? Well, it opened the opportunity for Pitt to tie Miami for second place in the ACC. Pitt could not close the deal against a team that had lost 3 consecutive games. 1 week after having a showdown in Dallas against SMU. And shoot, forget the final score, whatever it turned out to be. I think 48-25. They were trailing 48-11 in the third quarter. Again, they've got 7 wins. The overall record looks nice at 7-2, but they have played themselves out of ACC contention. Eli Holstein, their starting quarterback, has been knocked out of the game the last 2 weeks, and when Nate Yarnell stepped in, the former starting quarterback, only a 4 of 12 showing against the Virginia Cavaliers. At number 6 in the ACC, a team on the downfall, Pitt. They had lost 14 consecutive games against top 5 teams. They lost their top 3 running backs. Their number 1 running back is a 1,000-yard rusher from 2023 and ripped up the opposing defense for 83 yards on just 3 carries before he was knocked out of the game. Again, they lost the other 2 guys. They were down to a 4th-string running back, and they were flip-flopping quarterbacks, not series to series, but play to play at times. Haynes King and Aaron Shiloh, the runner and the passer. Never a good idea, right? Well, it was for Brent Key on Saturday in an upset win against Miami, 28-23. At number 5 in the ACC, they're now 6-4 and bowl eligible. The Ramblin' Wreck. 1 week after delivering one of the most dismal performances in recent Clemson football history, the Tigers were trailing 7-0 in Blacksburg. Difficult place to play, no offense for a second consecutive week. Well, they started to hand the ball to Phil Maffa, get out of his way, 128 yards. Cade Klubnik made enough big plays downfield, and the defense returned to form, giving up a season-low 228 yards by the Virginia Tech offense, with Sammy Brown emerging as a star linebacker, and we know about R.J. Mickens at safety as one of the best defenders in the ACC. A 24-14 win by Clemson gets them back in the ACC running because it's coupled with the Miami loss earlier in the day. At number 4 in the ACC, the Clemson Tigers. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. Please like the video and subscribe for more videos and more live streams. This team's got a worse record than Clemson, worse conference record. However, we've got them ranked higher. The head-to-head was not even close. It was a butt-kicking the week before in Death Valley as Louisville did the honors. Also, consider the Cardinals have 3 losses to really good football teams: Notre Dame, Miami, and SMU, all by 1 score. Louisville comes into this week at 6-3. They're traveling out to Stanford. They've got the 19th rated offense in the country, number 8 in yards per play, with the likes of the freshman Isaac Brown at running back, averaging 7.5 yards per carry. Ja'Cory Brooks is number 2 in the ACC in receiving. Never count out Jeff Brom. The guy can flat out coach at number 3 in the ACC. Louisville. They have held down the number 1 position in our ACC power rankings the entire season, but they've been riding on the edge, and they fell off the edge in Atlanta on Saturday. Of course, we're talking about Miami, and despite Cam Ward and another 348 yards passing, he's number 1 in the nation, and 3 touchdown passes. The rush defense let them down. 5.6 yards per carry by Tech, and 277 yards rushing by Tech. That's the worst performance by a Miami defense since the North Carolina game of 2020. Multi-talented weapons all over the field, offensive line, but they got to fix the defense if they want to make a CFP run. But in terms of the ACC, they still control their own destiny. But they're now number 2 in the ACC, the Canes. Many media, including myself and others, tabbed SMU as a dark horse pick in the ACC. And while the Mustangs will not be picking up a paycheck this season, they could pick up championship rings. They are the only undefeated team in the conference. Now, that's been bioed to a certain extent by the schedule. ACC opponents are only 12-19. However, we looked at that early schedule and thought, if SMU can get by Florida State, that was a joke, huh? But that appeared to be the major hurdle. And then there was a date against Louisville in which the Mustangs stormed into Louisville and took that game by a touchdown, and they've been riding high ever since. And look at the showdown 2 weekends ago against a Pitt team that was undefeated. That was a laugher. Rashard Smith has almost 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns at running back. He's been a find. The transfer from Miami, and of course the quarterback Kevin Jennings taking over for a very experienced, prolific, and successful quarterback in Preston Stone, but Kevin Jennings has been the answer to early season woes and the one loss on the campaign in which they couldn't generate offense against BYU and losing 18-15. They're 8-1 overall, 5-0 in the ACC, and they're number one. That's SMU. We've got 3 weekends of college football play left. Most of these teams have 2 games left with a bye. Some of them have still 3 games to play, like SMU. And so there's much to be decided. But SMU is a clear path to the championship game. We will outline the reason why Miami has a clear path despite losing last weekend against Georgia Tech. And of course, Clemson is still firmly in the mix as well for an ACC championship game appearance. We will outline the scenarios in an upcoming video. Please like, comment, and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football.